What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick. Sherdog.com is the website. I am the host, Devin. I have a special guest, but he's over here. I can never get that right. It's been too many times and I still get it wrong. Dayne, thank you for coming on. How's it going, man?
It's going good. Always happy to be here. Feel honored as always. But we got a crappy weekend of fights to talk about, and what we're hoping will be a good weekend going forward.
I do not typically take weekends off from watching MMA. Like I typically watch everything. I like to watch it live. I like to be, part of the MMA world. I actually took this weekend off. I kind of told you the story a little bit, but we're going to get into the main event, not the Gamrot fight, but the main event that was supposed to be the main event from this past weekend. Dayne was listening to me tell a story about one time when my dog broke in to my laundry room and ate a bunch of dog treats. It was thank you for listening. So we're just going to hop right into it. Out with the old Maycee Barber versus Erin Blanchfield, a fight that was supposed to be a fight that did not happen. I was out in the middle of nowhere. We were out on a boat, and on the way home, I asked my spouse, I said, hey, can you please tell me the results of the fight? I would like to know. And then she's reading me the canceled bouts, and then I hear Blanchfield versus Barber was canceled, and she mispronounced their names. If you look at the way that Maycee is spelled, you could kind of totally understand that. And I was like, do you mean Maycee Barber and Erin Blanchfield? How is that canceled? You watched it live, man. I did not watch this live. How long, how on the broadcast were you? How did you just find out? Were they alluding to it? I heard that they were kind of alluding to it earlier in the card. Is that correct?
Not really. They had hyped up the fact that Blanchfield was questioning whether or not the fight was going to go down, given Maycee's recent medical history. But Barber weighed in. She missed weight and she looked like hell on the scale. But at that point, it was like, okay, she's there. She's going to rehydrate. She'll probably be fine. So I didn't think that there was anything suspicious with regards to that. The way that the broadcast did play out when we found out, how with every fight of major consequence, they tend to have some sort of a hype video, and of course, especially for the main event. They got done playing the hype video, and then there was just silence. I thought there was like some sort of production problem or audio problem, something like that with regards to the broadcast. But, it was just silence. And then they go down to the desk because Cinco DC and Fitzy are all, you can tell that they're listening to something in their ear. And they're like, okay, it looks like Barber's not coming out right now. That's all they said. It was, she's not coming out right now. It's like, what? She's not coming out right now? She's supposed to be out now. So that means that the fight is canceled, and on the Sherdog Slack, we had all sorts of stuff going back and forth, and
I should go read that.
Oh, dude, yeah, there's a lot that we
I want to know what everyone on our team had to say about that. No, I saw the pictures that Barber posted. She was definitely hospitalized. At first, I was very skeptical, but she has had, I think this is her third medical pullout. She's like, I've never pulled out of a fight unless I pulled out of a fight. Well, I mean, regardless of the reasoning, this is another one that she pulled out from. It really sucks it sucks for both of them. Sucks for Blanchfield because she kind of said all week, like, for lack of a better term, she felt shaky about Barber. She didn't trust, Barber making weight. Blanchfield was right about everything this weekend besides that she was going to win the fight because the fight never happened. But she
got her win bonus.
Yeah. Best case scenario for her. I mean, she didn't have to get into a fight. She didn't have to get into a fight and got her show and her win. Only thing she's missing out on is a potential, some sort of bonus, like fight of the night. And a win on her record would push her toward a title shot.
Yes, but that's what she's missing. Like if she had been able to win impressively, she might be getting the next shot against Shevchenko. I don't think that's happening off of this.
From what I heard, Shevchenko was there, which was really, that kind of tells me something. And now it's just, what's going to happen now is probably we're going to get Zhang Weili versus Shevchenko, and then we'll probably get some sort of interim title fight that's involving Natalia Silva. And I just don't know who her other counterpart will be. And if Blanchfield would have won this fight, she would have had a real, she would have had a really good reason to be waving her flag to say, no, that should be me. I don't know what they're gonna do now. This puts the division in a weird spot too, and this division's been in a weird spot.
Well, it was held up by the trilogy with Grasso and Shevchenko. And there was a year in between fights because of
the Ultimate Fighter.
Exactly. No, that's exactly how I feel. I'm so sick of the Ultimate Fighter at this point. Like, it's one of those relics of the past that I feel like it served its purpose, but at this point it's kind of like a covered wagon. Covered wagons had their purpose at one point, but they're done now. We don't need it anymore for MMA. Nobody pays attention to the show. Oh. Sorry to go off on the tangent, but it was great for the UFC back in the day. Can we just let it die? And at this point, at least they're having retired fighters as the coaches. I prefer that as opposed to sidelining, like they did with Shevchenko and Grasso. But yeah, anyway, I agree. The division's in a weird spot.
And to say one more thing about that is, like, I actually think I'm going to try to watch the first episode of the season's Ultimate Fighter only because the coaches are DC and Sonnen. I actually think if the UFC is going to continue to do this Ultimate Fighter thing, that having, number one, holding up divisions, like a whole entire season, like a whole entire TV show season to, like, how old was Shevchenko when she did that? Like 35?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? At 35, dude, holding a belt, and you're going to take a year off, like, you can't afford that.
Well, beyond that, dude, it's not just a whole year to promote a TV show. You're holding it up for a whole year to promote a TV show that nobody watches. Like, we're the target audience, and you're saying, yeah, I might watch the first episode. That tells you how many people are watching it.
And what I also find crazy too is there's no way that you could convince me that Valentina Shevchenko makes more money shooting the Ultimate Fighter than she would if she just took another fight defending her title. Yep. Like, Valentina Shevchenko's getting paid pretty freaking well. Her championship clause, she's getting paid very well when she's holding the belt. She's stuck there. So it kind of seems weird when you're contractually obligated with that championship clause. So, like, you can't really go anywhere, but then they're like, hey, we're going to back burner you and not let you fight. Anyway, back to Blanchfield and Barber. For Blanchfield, it does put her in a weird spot, just because she's still, in my opinion, probably one more fight from a title. She needs to be put in the title eliminator, but she also lost that fight to Manon Fiorot, who just lost the title fight. And the UFC could potentially put Natalia Silva and Shevchenko together, but I don't know if they're going to do that. I really think the UFC wanted the winner of this fight to fight Shevchenko. I do think that they probably wanted to do that. And to be honest with you, that was my preferred route, provided whoever won it won impressively. But, I know that there's a lot of buzz about Weili Zhang getting the next shot at Shevchenko. I think, you've got Virna Jandiroba there, who's done everything that she can to get a title shot. It's a worthy contender. Have Weili defend one more time, because right now there's already a logjam at 125. We just barely got Shevchenko defending against Fiorot. Blanchfield looks like she could be worthy, even if she didn't get the win here. Silva looks like she's worthy. I don't know. Maybe put Blanchfield and Jazza Davicius together in a title eliminator. Maybe
You put Blanchfield in with Silva in a interim title fight. There's a lot of different options that they could go with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do think that this result makes a division that was already in flux further in flux.
I actually really want to see Jasmine Jasdavicius fight Erin Blanchfield now. Like, I'm trying to see something. Because they both,
you know,
like, that's, if you, like, outside of Shevchenko, like, who is the, like, imposing grappler in the division? And it's those two girls. Like, that's the, you know, Blanchfield or
I thought you were saying that it's you know, Jasdavicius, that is who you were saying, and so I was saying that, yeah, pair the two up, and I'm with you 100%. It would be a fun fight to see, by a million miles.
And you know what? I can tell you one thing about both those girls is they both fucking show up when they're supposed to be somewhere. They make fucking weight. They show up. They fight their fight, and they fight their asses off. Jasdavicius is one thing I love about her and Blanche. They're both tryhards. Like, they, you know, they are.
They're not elite athletes, but yeah,
I love a tryhard. I love someone with real stick-to-itiveness, and they both have that, and they both show up to fight, and they both actually show up and they make weight. They don't pull out last minute. As for Barber, like, Blanchfield said some pretty harsh things, and I heard another podcast, I will remain nameless, much bigger than mine. They were kind of saying that Blanchfield was being a little bit mean about what she said about Barber, but, like, I don't fully agree with that. I would, I mean, like, if you're Maycee Barber and you know your health's not right, and you're having consistent health issues, and you're getting enhancement surgeries that definitely, and you already have problems making weight, like, do you think that extra 5 pounds or whatever, like, why are you, you know, and supposedly she's had like a prolonged medical condition. So, like, why are you getting surgeries like that when you have this prolonged medical condition? And I don't want to make any, I don't, you know, that's her. She can do whatever she wants to do. I'm just saying from like if you have to make weight, would you want to make weight with a dumbbell in your hands, a 5-pound dumbbell? No.
Yeah.
As a professional fighter, who cares what you do outside of, I don't care. You could be one of those people that transform themselves into a cat or an alien. I don't care. But I'm talking about, like, from a professional athlete standpoint that fights for the UFC and gets paid well and is still young enough to do it for a while. I don't know if that's the, you know, whatever. I would not try to make weight with my pockets full of sand. I would take the sand out of my pockets. And then you just parlay that with the fact that, like, if you knew that you had a medical condition and you're like trying to push through it, like, not only is that unfair to yourself and unfair to your team, it's also unfair to Blanchfield. So I don't think it was wrong. Like, Blanchfield said that she does have to get her life in order. And I agree. Maycee Barber clearly needs to get her life in order. She has to figure out her priorities. If she wants to continue to fight, then she needs to figure out how to be healthy and make weight, or she needs to go fight at a division that will allow her to, you know, make the weight and not have medical issues and have a seizure right 6 minutes before you're supposed to walk out. And the same thing could be said for fighters like Trevin Giles. Like, he was supposed to fight on this card, and like he was like cutting weight and he hit his head and shit, and he's bounced around from 170 to 185. Like, dude, if you're falling and hitting your head when you're cutting to 170, you shouldn't cut to 170.
Yeah. No, same deal happened to Tim Means all those years back. That was when he was cutting to 155. You know, found a home at 170, and he's stuck around. He's been around for over a decade at this point. You know, if, just like you said, man, if that's causing you to slip and fall like that, maybe move back up.
And if you have health issues and they're not being regulated, you know, with your doctor, and then you're cutting weight, like, I mean, most people listening to this understand the, like, physical impact of what a weight cut does to your body. But like, if you don't, like you could fucking die from that shit. Like the weight cuts are like they're more serious than the word serious. Like they're beyond like like if you talk to a doctor, if you go see your physician, anyone else listening to this, and you tell them that you're going to do a weight cut and what it entails and what you're about to do, they're going to tell you should not do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Not and throwing the fact too, I think years of prolonged weight cutting also makes you more chinny. Like, look at James Vick. The dude was 6'3", cutting down to 155. And early on, he had a pretty decent chin. He, it's not like he was getting rocked by heavy hitters, but he never looked like he was chinny towards the end. Dude, if you throw a feather at him, he was going out. It was sad.
His last sanctioned fight was in karate combat, and Rafael Alves knocked him out so bad he had to be put into a medically induced coma.
Yep. And that was even after Vic had decided to start fighting at 170 for the last few fights of his UFC career. The damage had already been done.
Yeah, there's no, there's nothing you could do. So for Barber, if she's having health issues, like, obviously I hope she figures it all out.
Yeah.
And maybe, hopefully she finds out that she's still able to fight, but maybe she can't even fight anymore. I don't know. It's weird. Like, and also some people just suffer from things that, she could be epileptic and just get seizures. I don't know what fighting is like under. I assume that you probably shouldn't fight if you have epilepsy, but I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But some people do have like seizure issues where they'll just, have a seizure every year, a couple seizures a year, and they just like really have not diagnosed it. Hopefully she gets her stuff figured out. And then hopefully for Blanchfield, she gets like a fast turnaround. It sucks that she cut all this weight, but she's not huge for the division. I don't think the weight cut is like as bad like a Barber. She's not doing like Jose Aldo type weight cuts. So I think, maybe in a month they can find her an opponent, but just like her and her team said that she's not going to fight Barber again. And for Barber also too, man, this is going to be, what sucks for her now is instead of getting the opportunity to fight up in the rankings, she's going to be put into a position where, number one, she might not be able to fight at this division ever again. And if she does, they're going to probably try to use her as a stepping stone at this point. They're going to probably try to get a young person to, like if a Dakota Ditcheva gets brought over here, don't be surprised if you see something like that happen.
No, I don't think they're going to be willing to do that. They want Dakota to be fighting somebody who they know is going to be able to show up.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm also convinced at this point that Ditcheva might beat every woman's flyweight on anyone that's.
I've had that thought too, dude. No, if people haven't seen her, they're missing out. She's a beast.
I mean, if you listen to this, you probably know who Dakota Ditcheva is, but like if you've never really watched her shit, just go to YouTube and just type in like do the standard Dakota Ditcheva highlights, and like you'll see some cool shit. That wraps up the first segment of the show. We're going to move on to the middle segment of the show. What's hot? We're going to talk about Jon Jones. We're going to talk about the UFC heavyweight division. And honestly, dude, I'm at the point where I'm like done talking about Jon Jones. So we're going to hash it out. There's been some stuff going on in the media where Jon Jones was at a seminar saying that the UFC needs to, that he can't legally talk about his agreements with them and Tom Aspinall. And then Tom Aspinall came out today, I believe, was doing an interview saying that Jon Jones has retired and that he has been moved to the full-fledged undisputed champ. So we'll see what happens. I'm so tired of it. I'm just done.
Too. I'm done.
I'm so fucking over it. Like, this could go down as like some of the most blatant. This is like a big, like what the kids call ducking. That's what the definition of this is.
Yeah, it could be that.
Oh, he doesn't want to fight him. He doesn't want.
Oh, I know that. Jon is very protective of his legacy, and I understand that. I totally get that, but
he reserves the right to be.
Agreed. I'm not saying, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be. Like if he does technically have a loss on his record, but you and I and everybody who follows MMA knows that loss is crap.
The Reyes fight. I'm kidding.
Hamill. Yeah. No, okay. Yes. I scored that for Reyes myself. But anyway, no, I think a better word for it right now, honestly, is self-sabotage.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is worse for his legacy, in my opinion, than just being like, fuck it, I'll take on the young gun. I'm the best in the world and losing. Because you know what, man? Like, you did that shit with dignity. Like, what you're doing now is not.
And it's not even just that, it's the fact that he is disrespecting MMA fans so bad with this. Yeah, no, exactly. There is zero respect. It's not just the fact that he's claiming he's trying to leverage it with regards to Aspinall, and all that fun stuff. At this point, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it whatsoever. And throw in the fact too, like when the Stipe fight went down, the very first time that it was scheduled, that was November of 2023 that it was supposed to go down, and then Jon tore his pec. So what did the UFC do? They replaced that with a interim fight between Aspinall and Pavlovich, and Aspinall instantly won over the fans right at that point. They were like, screw Stipe, we want to see Jones fight Aspinall. And that should have been the fight to make at that point, because, I don't want to disrespect Stipe, but he had been sitting on the sidelines for so damn long. And in that sense, Stipe had been disrespecting the fans because he's like, nah, I don't think enough of you guys to go out and entertain you. Because if we're being honest, more so than being athletes, they're entertainers. It's our dollar that's footing their bill. So for them Stipe kind of lost a lot of respect amongst the fans. They didn't want to see him fight Jones. They wanted to see Aspinall fight Jones. And Jones insisted that, no, I want to fight Stipe, because he knew that Stipe was shot at that point. And so the UFC gave him that. At that point, it's like, okay, no, we gave you Stipe. You're fucking fighting Tom. And at this point, it's not happening. Just strip him. I don't care anymore. Give Tom Aspinall the undisputed belt. Have him defend against Cyril Gahn. Have him defend against Pavlovich again. Well, no, that doesn't make any sense right now. But just Jones has no interest in doing anything for the fans. And so we're done with him. Obviously, he's done with us. We're done with him.
When you were in school and you saw the kid that was like, I'm going to fight this kid. And then the other kid was like scared, like, no, please don't. I don't want to fight you. Mm-hmm. Versus the kid that was like, you know what? Even if I lose, I'm going to still square up with you. There's just more dignity in it. To me, it just seems like he doesn't, like, if he wanted to fight Tom Aspinall, he'd fight Tom Aspinall.
Okay. But at the same time, dignity. This is the guy that crashed into a vehicle driven by a pregnant woman. What does he do? He doesn't bother to check on her. He runs out of the car, stops, goes back, grabs cash, and then runs again. So dignity.
I mean, this is also the guy that I listened to the 911 call when his daughter.
Oh yes.
Called 911. The issue with his fiance, not his wife, his fiance in the hotel. I listened to the 911 call. So it's public. Like any of you guys listening to this, you can, I implore you to just pause it and actually go Google that and listen to it. It'll, Jon Jones' daughter had to call 911 on him. So that's not good. And I think about him sometimes and I'm like, dude, you've got everything in the world. You got like 4 daughters, a spouse back at home. Like, why are you in Thailand doing this stupid shit? Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, are you just doing things to? It's like he's doing things to not have a reason to be in a fight camp. I can't be in a fight camp right now. I'm shooting a show.
Well,
Like that's selective, bro.
Beyond that, dude, he's got the grace of the fans. We should tell him to shove it, given all that he's done. He has, he's probably one of, yeah. He has screwed UFC fans over so many times. Excuse me, MMA fans, if I should be more accurate. UFC 200, that was deflated because of him. A lot of people blame him for UFC 151. He probably deserves some blame, but I'm definitely not putting all the blame on him for that one. How many other fights has he screwed over? Yeah, but I'm just, he's gotten a lot of grace in the sense that if for fans to still care about him rather than tell him to piss off, and all of the nasty things that he's done with regards to hiding under the ring for drug tests, like you said, the phone call, the drunken driving, all that fun stuff.
The recent issue with the drug testing person at his house.
Yes, there was the one.
I don't think anything came of that. But like he was drunk at having a party, and like whoever showed up and like he like went schizo on him or something. It's like,
dude, the weekend he went into the UFC Hall of Fame for his fight with Justice.
Yeah.
Remember that, dude?
Crying
this
on the
guy
cop
has.
car.
Like
he was shooting the guns during COVID. Remember when he was shooting the fucking guns in the middle of
yes, dude. Okay. This guy he's received so much grace, and it's like, dude, please do this for us. And he's like, nah, I'm good. It's at this point, it's like, okay, fine, I'm done. I don't care.
One of his tweets recently where somebody was like poking at him about fighting Tom, and he was like, oh no, it was actually regarding Submission Radio, and Luke Thomas is on Submission Radio, and he was they were having a conversation similar to the one that we're having right now, and he was just like, he called them losers, and he's like, you don't know whose world you live in. So that just gives you the idea of like who he thinks he is. But like also without fighting, you got nothing, buddy. And I do think that this is degrading his legacy more than, again, him just taking a fight and losing against the younger, bigger guy. But we all know Jon Jones does not like to be in a fight where he doesn't think he already has some predisposed advantage going into it. And I think when he watches tape, Jon Jones has watched his fight with Stipe 100 times. He does a ton of tape study. He is watching his fight with Stipe and realizing, I don't think I move as well anymore. Stipe landed a lot of uppercuts on me in the clinch, and there's no way Jon Jones loves to watch tape, and you can watch a lot of Tom Aspinall tape in a very short amount of time. He's not stupid either. He understands the risk of Aspinall, and he can do whatever he wants to do. He just shouldn't be holding on to the UFC heavyweight title and playing with us. But like for me, it's been, I have a buddy he's a huge Jon Jones fan, and I told him when he beat Stipe, I told him verbatim, Jon Jones will never fight Tom Aspinall. He is never going to be willing to do it. And I want to be wrong.
I want you to be wrong too, man. That fight's, I've heard Keith say it. I don't know how many times, probably since the Stipe fight. He's said it damn near every episode of the preview show or the after the belt, whatever you want to say. That's the fight he most wants to see, and I'm with him. But at this point, I don't think it's going to happen. And I know that I've been throwing a lot of shade towards Jones, but I'll be the first to admit I think he probably is the greatest fighter that MMA seen at this point. But you can only stiff the fans for so much before they're just done. And I think it's at the point where everybody's fed up. I applaud Aspinall for saying, you know what, I'm done. I'm not waiting around. I'm not going to be Michael Chandler. Let's move on.
Yep.
And if he takes that approach, Jones loses all of his leverage. So
one champion is fighting number one contenders, and one champion is fighting dudes that were like not even ranked and literally retired. I mean, that should just, whatever. And Jon Jones is not the undisputed champion because Tom Aspinall is the interim champion, and you cannot be the undisputed champion if there is an interim champion. So technically they're, it's 1A and 1B, regardless of who is, and I'm not saying this like as a Jon Jones hater, but like if you remove all biases and you look at what's happening right now, how could you convince someone that Jon Jones deserves to be the champion any more than Aspinall does? There's no argument for it.
Yeah,
because he beat Stipe. There's no fucking argument. A lawyer could argue it in court; they'd be wrong. Like you could find someone to argue it. But to me, there's no. I mean, freaking Ray Charles could see what is going on here. And I think we're gonna probably get. Can you and I make a deal that if Aspinall and Jones gets announced within the next 6 months, you and I will do like a check the kick special. The night that it gets announced, you and I will come on here for 15 minutes. We will eat our crow together, and then we will talk about it. I'm willing.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
6 months from, I'm recording this on June 2nd. So 6 months from today, if that happens, I will do a 15-minute episode. I will eat my crow. We will do it together. I don't think that shit's gonna happen. Moving on to the final segment of the show, Dayne and I were just on change.org signing the petition to strip Jon Jones. I'm totally kidding, but that's a real thing. So if you're as passionate about it as we are, you can go there and sign the petition. We're going to talk about UFC 316 coming off of a, quite frankly, what seemed to be a bad weekend of fights. We're headed straight into a pay-per-view. We got like a whole month of no Apex. We're all over the place. So we got a lot of cool shit happening this month. The month of June should be really dope. There's a couple fights on this card that I want to talk about. There's a couple that I decided to pass over, like the Joe Pyfer and Kelvin Gastelum. You can go rewind my old whatever episode that was that I recorded about it. My feelings haven't changed. Do you want to just give your pick for that real quick?
Pyfer.
I picked Pyfer.
There you go. Really quick. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. And I think he might be that quick too. So we're going to talk about men's flyweight. Low key, like, there's some real good fights on this card, like good matchmaking, but this fight could potentially be like fight of the night. We're going to talk about Joshua Van taking on Bruno Silva. Odds on this fight seem freaking crazy to me because both of these dudes are very good. Yes, and I really like one of these dudes. Pause.
Oh, dude, it's no secret. It's Van.
Yeah. More about the I really like one of these dudes part that I said there. I like Joshua Van as a fighter. Joshua Van is a huge favorite here. He's a minus 550 favorite. Bruno Silva's coming back at 400. Yeah, and he's even up at minus 600 at some places, but then I see him all the way down at minus 485. But the average seems to be about minus 550. And he was a bigger favorite this morning, so more money's coming in on Bruno Silva. Honestly, yeah, it should. I love Joshua Van, and before I give my X's and O's, like I think he should win this fight, but fuck at minus 550.
No,
did no one watch the Charles Johnson fight?
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, it's not just the fact that he's fighting Bruno Silva, who has knocked out a couple of his opponents with just one punch. Like, well, I shouldn't say he's not completely knocked him out. He didn't dead him, but he started the process with one punch. It wasn't a punches and bunches. It was, oh shit, I'm down and out, and then he finishes them off. Regardless, the point is Silva's got power, and Van got stopped by Charles Johnson. And as much as I like Charles Johnson, I actually messaged him on X this morning, telling him that my fat ass has a lot of respect for him. But anyway, Johnson is not a powerhouse. He's incredibly dope. Yeah.
But yeah, he's not the puncher that Bruno Silva is. I mean, I'm sure Charles Johnson thinks he is, but maybe,
but he put away Joshua Van, and that was less than a year ago.
Yep. Here's the thing is not only did he put away Joshua Van, he knocked out Joshua Van in the exact fight that Joshua Van wants to have with every single person he fights. Yes. If he can have even boxing exchanges that are in tight where he is close enough to rip the body, but also far enough to slip punches and return. Like, he wants to have prolonged pocket boxing exchanges with people, and he lost that fight. It was a close fight, very close up until the point where he got knocked out, but he lost, and he did not only just lose, he got knocked out. Someone like Bruno Silva is totally capable of that. Bruno Silva was on a 4-fight win streak. You know, JP buys, you know, Victor Rodriguez, you know, but Tyson Nam, that, you know, in 2023, like, Tyson Nam is a probably one of the harder punchers at 125 ever. And then Cody Durden, who is like a very respectable ass opponent, and he finished all 4 of those dudes. You know, he had a couple losses where he did lose to David Dvorak and Tagir Ulanbekov, but he himself, Bruno Silva, he's a good fighter. And yeah, he did lose to Manel Kopp back in December of last year. It's seems like not that long ago, but it really was, you know, 6 months ago. It's freaking insane. But he fought 3 rounds with Manel Kopp. It was clear that Manel Kopp was winning, but, you know, he was still able to hang out, you know, for as long as he did against Manel Kopp. He did lose and got finished in a crazy barrage. And Joshua Van is capable of putting on that type of offense. Maybe he is not the supreme athlete than Manel Kopp is, but he's definitely more consistent.
Yeah.
Joshua Van is one of the more consistent dudes at this division with his boxing and what he wants to do. But the odds to me, I find insane. I'm picking Joshua Van in this fight. I think someone like Bruno Silva could really punish Joshua Van in those prolonged boxing exchanges where he is trading with people. He's throwing 3 to 4 punch combinations. He's ripping to the body. That just leaves you open for counters. And Joshua Van is a pretty slick boxer. He's one of the better boxers in this division. But he's, you know, he's not a defensive savant like Floyd Mayweather. Like, he's still very hittable. And Bruno Silva's a very hard puncher. He's very dangerous. And he, not only is he dangerous, you know, just with his striking, but he's got a hell of a club and sub game. Like, he'll fucking hurt you and sub you with something really quick right after. He's got really good finishing instincts. I just think Joshua Van, you know, I'm not going to call the Charles Johnson fight like a, you know, luck or anything like that, because clearly it wasn't, but he's still so young. And Charles Johnson himself is a dude that is, you know, he's matured all the way in his career. Like, I think Joshua Van has the ability to, you know, just get better. He looks like he's getting better. I mean, that the Ray Surya fight, like, he beat the shit out of Ray Surya. The Edgar Chairez fight, like, that was a brawl, and look how good Edgar Chairez is fighting. Cody Durden, that's a good win. And he had been on a hell of a streak up until that Charles Johnson fight. And if you remove that, you know, he's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 11 out of his last 12 fights. He's 23. Like,
that's the big thing that I want to highlight with that, dude. He's 23. He's still getting better. So yes, you know, I emphasize the fact that he lost to Johnson a year ago, and that's no disrespect to Johnson, because Johnson is a very good flyweight. But I honestly think that Van's at the point in his career where he's making big strides, and I think if him and Johnson were to fight today, I'd be picking Van to win, knowing what I know from their first fight.
And I think most of us picked Van to win that first fight, and both of us were surprised by it. You know, maybe not surprised, but maybe just happy for Charles Johnson, a guy that's like, I mean, look who Charles Johnson just got matched up with. Like, the dude's he's freaking got matched up with Loner Kavanaugh. Like, can they give this dude a fight where he's like not letting someone make their name off him potentially? And I think he's kind of making a career out of that. Like, he's kind of the like C-Rod of 125. It's really,
that's a good way to put it.
Really what he is. It's an asterisk on his career, but Charles Johnson is a good fighter, and there are way worse people to have lost to. And
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, and he was 22 at the time. You know, it's a shock. It would be shocking for him to get into the UFC at the time he did when he was 21 and not fight his way to the championship without getting a loss. You know, like I totally would expect that. And I know that Keith's been on record as saying that he thinks Joshua Van's going to be a champion one of these days. I feel like if I were to say something like that, I'd just be jumping on the bandwagon of what Keith said. So I'm not going to say one way or another if that happens. I do think Van's going to be around in the UFC for a very long time, and I think he's going to be a very good fighter. I'll say that. But, you know, those types of losses should be expected from somebody on their way up. And, yeah, at 23, he's only getting better. But on the flip side, you know, we've been singing praises about Silva and his power and all that fun stuff and that he's a great fighter. He's also 35 at a division where age tends to become a bigger factor quicker than it does in the heavier divisions. So, you know, even though I damn near shit my pants at how wide those odds are, you know, I do feel pretty confident in picking Van, but I would never, ever lay money on those betting odds where Van's at. If anything, I'd be throwing a dime or something like that towards where Bruno's at.
who do you consider the best 3 male flyweights ever to be?
Ever?
Yep.
Pantoja, Figgy, and Mighty Mouse.
You've got Figgy over Moreno. I think our service went bad here. Okay.
No.
Regardless, and I think you could, and really my argument is just the fact that you could have Moreno in there or whoever, any of those dudes, whatever. It's flyweight, it's MMA.
Yes.
Like they all have losses.
Oh yeah.
They all have losses, and you could throw Henry Cejudo in there if you really, really wanted to too. And that dude's, they all got losses. They all took losses early. Look at Brandon Moreno's trajectory to the UFC title.
Oh yeah.
Look at, like, you know, they all have losses. So Joshua Van, it's his loss is something that he can use to learn. And even if, like, I won't make, he may be the world champion, but I guarantee you Joshua Van will at least get himself into a title elimination bout.
I think that's a pretty safe prediction in my opinion. Yeah.
At a minimum. And he could be 2 or 3 fights away from that. So we're both on Joshua Van. I think this is going to be a really, really good fight, though, because if you know Bruno Silva, like, he is going to have a Josh Van fight with Josh Van. Joshua Van has really, really good takedown defense. This is going to be a fight that's going to end up on the feet. And people need to stop hating on flyweight, especially Dana White. Moving on to what should be the featured bout, but it's actually not the featured bout. We have I don't want to call it a short notice fight, but like maybe kind of short notice. We have a UFC debutante, the highly touted, I'm not going to call him a prospect, but he's highly touted. We've got Patchy Mix finally making his great migration from Bellator, PFLator, whatever, to the UFC.
Technically, I don't think he fought under the PFL banner. PFL, like, I think all the events he was in, yeah, I think he was all Bellator. So,
which, yeah, they weren't doing the puff pass with him. They were holding on to that sucker. They were not letting Patchy Mix go, but they finally let him go. You know, he hasn't fought in over a year. His last fight was against Magomedov. He's coming in on semi-short notice. He has seemed to have a little bit of a tumultuous relationship with the PFL, but I don't think that's his fault. Clearly, if you look at the, you know, what's the PFL doing with their fighters right now? Not giving them fights. So now he's here. He was the Grand Prix winner. Let me grab the year of that. That was in 2023. And at that point, when he was fighting that, when they were going through that Bellator Grand Prix, where he fought like Horiguchi, Magomedov, where he hit him with that guillotine, and then he hit Rafael Stotts with that knee, and then he defeated Sergio Pettis.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was on at that point, like in 2023 when he was rolling heads, like the Horiguchi fight to me actually was like a huge standout performance. And even though it was like a boring, grinding fight where like he just like completely out grappled Horiguchi and like had his back and controlled him and just like was a bully. That to me told me a lot about him, because it's like, oh, like he could fucking just lock Horiguchi down and have him have zero moments in that fight. That was pretty impressive to me. Just like literally like lead blanketed him, just took his back, and he couldn't do a fucking thing about it. And then we have Bautista, man, a guy that is, unfortunately for him, he had that fight with Jose Aldo back in October of 2024, where like people were literally ready to, hang him in the streets. Like they caught him practicing witchcraft during the Salem witch trials. It's like really wasn't even that terrible. Like, yeah, it was a crime against humanity, but like in fight, like if it wasn't Jose Aldo, like nobody would be complaining. He had the Ricky Simon fight where he looked pretty good. The win against Damon Blackshear, that's a good win. So he himself is, he's making some big moves here. And I don't think I've heard anyone speak on this yet, but something to keep in mind about Bautista is he's out of the MMA lab, and the dude in the main event also does a lot of training there. And Sean O'Malley, so they're both getting each other ready. Also Marcus McGee, another MMA lab dude, just got, he's probably been in camp helping them out. He's just booked a fight with Petrion. So
Kyler Phillips.
Bautista, yep, Kyler Phillips, another, guy from their same weight class. So they've got like real good freaking training partners to be a men's bantamweight. And it just so happened that I'm sure Bautista and Sean O'Malley crossed paths a lot and probably did a lot of training together for their upcoming fight here. When it comes to skills versus skills, Patchy Mix did not look great his last time out.
Nope.
Like he fucking crushed Magomedov and then like just did not look that great against him and like arguably lost that fight. And my concern for Patchy is like, he's only 31, but he's a bantamweight. The dude that we knew, the one I thought he was the best bantamweight in the world, that was in 2023. That's been 2 years. It's getting like his Horiguchi win was April 23 of 2022. Like Bautista's been cranking out fights. He's been fighting under the big lights. He's, this is not Mario Bautista's biggest fight. Jose Aldo was his biggest fight. Like yeah. Patchy Mix is incredible. He's not Jose Aldo. There's not many Jose Aldos out there. So I think that Patchy could show up here and really, really perform the way he performed in 2023, but I also would not be surprised if Mario Bautista has a lot more success than people think he may. I did not give the odds actually, so that's very unprofessional. I screwed that up. Patchy Mix is the favorite. He's a minus 175 favorite. Bautista's a plus 150 dog. Tell me what you think, because I'm actually really torn on this. Like, I don't know who I'm picking.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that went through my mind as you were talking about that. I 100% agree with you that in terms of spotlight for Bautista, the biggest spotlight was easily Aldo. That was, a lot more pressure on him. Oh crap, I'm facing a legend, all that fun stuff. And he proved that he can stand up under the heat in that sense. This time, I think what he's got to contend with is complacency, in the sense that I've been in the UFC. I know what this is all about. This guy's new. He thinks he's a big shot coming from Bellator, but you know what? This is where the big dogs play, so to speak. If he takes that type of attitude, he's going to get himself into some serious trouble. But I in all honesty, I think Bautista is going to be okay with that. I'm just saying that that's a possibility. That's something to think about, to weigh. But I think more so, I think Mix is motivated. He went through the Grand Prix, and that was still when Bellator was independent. That was before PFL bought them. PFL buys them late 2023. And I think that all of the Bellator fighters at that point were just kind of like, oh crap, we're playing second fiddle at this point, which was kind of funny because when they did do the PFL versus Bellator event, Bellator just kicked their ass. But anyway, I think he was unhappy where he was at. I think the second fight with Magomed Magomedov saw him unmotivated because not only is he unhappy with his work situation, he's fighting somebody that he's already beat. And so I think that was a trap fight for him, and he escaped the trap, but only just barely. I think now coming into the UFC, he's like, okay, there's a lot of people who think that that Bellator is just small potatoes. I think Patchy's going to be motivated. I think he's going to go in there. I think he's going to feel like he's got something to prove. And this isn't going to be an easy fight for him by any means. I know that there's a lot of people who are unimpressed with Bautista, and they'll say, oh, yeah, well, he beat an ancient Jose Aldo, just because, they want to find whatever reason they can for why he beat Aldo. But Bautista's a hell of a fighter. Like you said, he's been training with O'Malley. He's been training with McKee. He's been training with Phillips, and iron sharpens iron. I don't think Bautista's at his peak yet. But despite that, I think Mix is going to be able to pull this one out.
Watching Mario Bautista, like he has been taken down in the past by lesser opponents. Patchy Mix himself is a really great grappler. He has got pretty good striking, like in 2023 when he freaking kneed Rafael Stott's head off. That was really dope. He's also got a really good guillotine game. Front headlock game. All sorts of front headlocks that he's really good at. He himself is like a club and sub artist. Like he will hurt you and he will choke you out. He also will, he's got the ability to take the back. He's very good at that. Kind of almost in an Aljamain Sterling way, maybe a little bit lesser of a, but in that similar way. And Bautista is probably the better striker of the two. And I think he definitely probably operates off the back foot a little bit better, but I don't think he has the takedown defense the takedown defense to stick up to someone like Patchy Mix. So I'm going to pick Patchy Mix here too. And I think he's going to come in motivated. He seems to have like a chip on his shoulder where he's just got like a little bit of a meanness to him. Like, fuck you, I'm going to finally prove my point. And I'm cool with that. Like, dude, he's doing the exact opposite of what Jon Jones is doing right now. Like he's going to bite down it and go be gritty. And one thing about Bautista, and it's something that is a really, a really good thing if you are a Bautista fan and you want to see him win fights, is that he is willing to fight a boring fight. He is willing to hold his opponent up against the cage. He is willing to do whatever he needs to do to win a fight. And people like that are dangerous. Like fighters that don't give a fuck about the audience and appeasing the audience are dangerous fighters because they know, like, they just know what they need to do to win. They're not out there to, they're not out there to appease anybody besides their bank account with their show money and their win money. And that's a dangerous person too. This fight should be close, and don't be surprised if Bautista, is able to edge out a decision here where he gets out grappled in one round, but he's able to, keep the fight on the feet and just kind of, win 80% of the striking exchanges with Patchy on the feet. Don't be surprised if that happens. I'm going Patchy Mix too, though. I think he is going to win a 3-round decision where I think he just gets a lot of back control. Moving on, we have the co-main event. And this is not the UFC bout order. Again, Kelvin Gastelum and Joe Pyfer are sandwiched in between these last two fights, but I care about these more. We have Julianna Pena defending her belt against Kayla Harrison in a fight that I'm a little bit surprised is actually happening. Like, I'm kind of surprised that Pena was just willing to entertain all of this. I'm very surprised that Pena did not retire after her last win, where she defeated Raquel Pennington. Odds on this fight. What do you think they are? What do you think they should be?
I'm sure they're wider than what I think they should be. Okay, so Van was at about -600. I don't know. I would imagine that this fight would probably be wider than that. Even though, again, I disagree. I'd probably say maybe -250 to -300 would be appropriate for Harrison, but I'm guessing they might have it about -700.
So I'm the site that I'm at gives me like literally like 30 different places, and I would say the average, she's between -600 and -700. There's a bunch of different lines. Average line, I'd say probably about -640 is what I'm seeing on here. And then Julianna Pena is coming back at +425, +430, right around there. Crazy odds for the longtime UFC veteran and Pena. These odds are really, really wide. I mean, come on, I totally get it. Julianna Pena, man, she is a girl that does not have a lot of pro fights. Like, she's got 12 wins, 5 losses, and she's a 2-time champion.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other 2-time champions with a record that looks like that. And that's like, I mean, her pro debut was the same year that I graduated high school. And she just has not done a lot of fighting, like even over her whole entire career. Like she beat Raquel Pennington via split decision in October of 2024. Prior to that was the rematch of Amanda Nunes. That was in 2022. So she took 2 years off. Prior to that is where she defeated Amanda Nunes. That was in 2021. She beat Sarah McMahon in 2021, but she fought in January of 2021, and then she fought in December of 2021. She had that technical sub of that high elbow guillotine that GDR freaking hit her with was actually really dope. Like, if in practice, like if you watch that fight, like it's just like she fucking hit her with that high elbow guillotine on a bad shot and just fucking squeezed her head off. Like, it was really, really impressive. She beat Nico Montano in 2019, but she lost via armbar to Shevchenko back in 2017. Like, she's taken these huge. The loss to Shevchenko and then the win against Nico Montano was like, there's 2 years in between, more than 2 years in between that. So she's taken so many hiatuses. Kayla Harrison, on the other hand, I mean, she is like the uncrowned champion at this point, truly. She has got a 18-1 record, but what's funny is that, there's a 9-year difference in between when they both made their pro debuts. One of them made their pro debuts in 2009, and the other one made their debut in 2018. And Kayla Harrison has racked up 19 fights. This will be her 20th pro bout. This will be Julianna Pena's 18th pro bout. That's very interesting to me. This fight could be really, really weird. What should happen is this should look really similar to Kayla Harrison's fight in Invicta. Do you remember that, where she took her opponent down, where the PFL like kind of went and let her go do that fight in Invicta, where she fought Courtney King? That was back in 2020, where she finally was able to use elbows and she just fucking sliced her whole, like took her down, like Habib ground and pound, just destroyed her. This fight should probably look like that, and I would say probably like 75% of the time the fight looks like. But the other 25%, man, Julianna Pena is capable of literally beating a prime Amanda Nunes in the dumbest, silliest way ever, with cardio, durability, and a jab. And Larissa Pacheco is much more of a hoss than Julianna Pena. But I'll tell you one thing about Julianna Pena, and it's something that you and I talked about off camera. She's got a hell of a lot of stick-to-itiveness. Dogged and determined are her best. Those are her best attributes, in my opinion. Like, when you watch Julianna Pena fight as a pro fighter, like if you just watched her tape and then I told you she was the world champion and you didn't know anything about MMA, you would be like, against who? Like when you watch her tape in practice, like she's got a good jab, but like she's slow fisted. She's got an okay grappling game. You know, she's got an okay sub game, but she doesn't have the great submission defense. She's also been taken down. Like Nunes was able to take her down and control her. But even in her second Nunes fight, like she got dropped how many times? Never gave up, never kept coming. Like dogged. And if Kayla Harrison doesn't kill her, she will be there for all 5 rounds, which could make this weird because we have seen Kayla Harrison, you know, not be the Incredible Hulk that, you know, a lot of us thought she could be. Like, you know, yeah, she didn't look that great against Aspen Ladd in 2023, and she lost against Larissa Pacheco in 2022, and against Ketlin Vieira. Like, Ketlin Vieira was able to, you know, defend some takedowns and have a little bit of success on the feet. And Kayla Harrison is not the power puncher that Amanda Nunes is. And they're both dangerous in their own ways, but Amanda Nunes is, I would say, is more dangerous than Kayla Harrison. So this could be fucking weird. I think this fight should really look like Kayla Harrison's LFA fight. I don't think Julianna Pena has great takedown defense. And I think, you know, she is a willing BJJ player, which could get her into trouble. And I've seen Kayla Harrison fight much bigger opponents like Jenna Fabian. Like, I'm gonna pick Kayla Harrison by round 2 ground and pound finish. But like, if there's a start to the 4th round of this fight and like Kayla Harrison stops getting takedowns, who knows, dude? This could be weird and funny. Tell me what you think.
Dude, okay, so I'm going to back up the idea that good luck finding somebody more dogged and determined than Pena. Even though for the last several years, people have been telling her to shut up. She continues to run her mouth because she's that dogged and determined to say, no, this is who I am. I'm that great. You know, I mean, dude, even after Nunes just completely decimated her in their second fight to the point where it's like, oh, okay, we don't need to see a trilogy. She would not give up on the idea that there should have been a trilogy.
And you know what, dude? She's really not wrong because she's like, hey, I finished you and you could not finish me.
Nobody wanted to see it. That's the problem. But
no. Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm not saying that there isn't some logic to it. But yeah,
she's holding on to the ticket. Like, she finished Amanda Nunes. We all saw it.
Yes.
Like,
but at the same time, Matt Serra finished George St. Pierre. Now, and granted, St. Pierre did finish him the second time around, but we didn't need the third fight. We didn't get it. And to be honest with you, when we talk about Pena beating Nunes, that's like Serra beating St. Pierre. You know, yep. This wasn't really a changing of the guard. This was more of a fluke. That's not to say that Pena's a shitty fighter. She's not. You know, she's a very good fighter. But I got to stop myself short of calling her a great fighter. And you said it yourself already. Her victory over Raquel Pennington. I was shocked when I heard the scorecards for that fight, to be honest with you. I'm not going to outright call it a robbery, but I felt pretty confident that decision was going to Pennington by the end of that fight. But you're looking up MMA decisions right now, aren't you?
I'm literally typing MMA decisions. I'm literally searching it right now. Like, you know. Okay, so out of all the media scorecards, there is one fellow, I'm not going to name him, that scored it for Pena. One fellow for MMA fighting, I think he just likes to be controversial. He scored it a draw. And then everyone else, there were 1, 2, hold on.
And I know I was among them.
You're here. I might even be here. Am I here? No. Yeah, like, seems like it's a group with everyone that at least has half a brain. Like, just like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many names on here of people that I like know and respect, including yourself.
Yeah.
Like Zane Simon, Sean Sheehan, Keith Schillen, Jay Petrie, Dayne Fox, Brian Knapp,
Yeah.
Tyler Treese, like, and many others, Dan Levy, Danny Segura, Ben Davis. Like, it's like anyone that knows.
These are people that understand the game. They do,
Yeah.
you know, and there's not going to be fights that I haven't thrown out a score out there and then I go back and rewatch it and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I was wrong on that when I threw that score out. But you know, in general, I think that that was a pretty clear fight. And what I'm getting at is, if there's such a thing as a fluke 2-time champion, that's Pena.
She's, yeah. And when you like watch her tape, that's why I said her best skill is her doggedness and her determination, because like I watch her strike and I'm like, you know, she's a pretty good topside grappler and she's dogged. She's got a pretty good submission game, but like, technically the whole entire men's flyweight division is better. You know what I mean? Like, just like skill wise, like with proper technique and proper application of technique, you know,
she is one of the sloppiest champions the UFC has ever had.
Like, it's doesn't mean she's not good, especially and when you grade someone as good in the UFC in a division, you have to base it among their peers, and she's holding the fucking belt. So even if it was close enough to where 2 of the judges thought she beat Raquel Pennington, so here we are. Yeah, I know. It's just to go off on a tangent too, like, why aren't we just doing the thing where we have 5 judges watching the broadcast with no commentary, no audio, in just like a random dark room in an arena where they don't have any sort of like crowd cheering potential influence to create a biasy. They don't have a fucking fence post having to look through chain link because they can't stand up, and like when people are getting at it, like, it's just not like watching a fight from home. You're gonna see the fight better than any place in an arena. It just doesn't matter. There's no obstructions. Like, they have the cameras on the fucking strings and shit. Like, if you're in an arena, there's gonna be some obstruction. What are we doing? Like, what? Just throw 5 of them. Just do the best of 5. Throw them in a place where there's going to be no potential interferences, and just have them watch the fight. They can get up, they can take piss breaks, you know, whatever they need to do. But like, from the time the fight starts to the time the fight ends, they can digitally enter their scorecard. Fuck this handwriting thing. Why are there issues when Bruce Buffer gets a scorecard and he's like, I can't, like, what are we doing?
Well, like, okay, to be fair, Buffer's called out the wrong name even when he has it right in front of him. So
true, you know, but like, what are we doing? It's like,
I'm with you, man. I get it.
You know, like,
there needs to be some tweaking to the system, obviously, but it's the classic argument of, but this is how it's always been done. This is how it's always been done. That's a terrible excuse. If we've got the technology and stuff like that for improvements, why not take advantage of it? But
if I can go to a restaurant and order off of a tablet, what the hell? If Applebee's has the technology, like, you know, it's to me, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I just think just because it's the way you've always done it doesn't mean it's the best way. So I think that's how.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll hurry up and give. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll give you the reasons why I think Pena can still win this, because, and I think you've largely already touched on it. The fact that she is as dogged as she is, she's never out of a fight. She will do everything she can to break out of a submission that she's stuck in. You are going to have to knock her out cold for her to stop coming. All that fun stuff. So in that sense, unless you literally stop her, she's not out of a fight. And beyond that, people forget it's Harrison has never actually made 135. She's made 136, but she has never made 135. And that last pound could be killer, And to be honest with you, I think that
we just had the conversation.
Oh yeah. And I think that weight cut for her against Vieira did not go so hot because she did not look as fresh as she did against Holm. She struggled against Vieira. To be fair, Vieira's tougher than what she gets credit for. It's, because she's fairly slow, because, she doesn't get enough credit for how good she actually is. And so I think people saying that, oh, man, I don't know, maybe Harrison isn't as good. Honestly, I think it was the weight cut more than anything that killed her in that fight, and just the fact that Vieira is underrated. Harrison she should win this 100%, but if she cannot get Pena out of there by the second round, it's going to be tough for her to win this, because she's going to have to win one of those last 3 rounds. So I feel very confident she'll win the first 2 rounds. She's very physically imposing, and as sloppy as Pena is, I don't think that Harrison's going to have any problems getting her to the ground within the first 2 rounds, and either finding a submission because Pena is struggling so much to get up that she gives up a position that Harrison can submit her, or she just ends up slicing her up with elbows, kind of like you were talking about. That's most likely going to happen within the first 2 rounds. But if it doesn't, those last 3 rounds, Pena can very well win those, just based on the fact that she's got the cardio and the doggedness to keep going. And we do not know how Harrison looks at 135. And even more important, we don't know how she looks at 135 for 5 rounds. So there's a very realistic avenue to victory for Pena to win this, which is why I hear those odds and I'm like, no, like even negative 250, negative 300 sounds a little bit wide in my mind, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And dude, if anyone is gonna just get this like wild card banana peel ass performance, the fucking history shows it's Julianna. Like
it's Pena.
And one thing that I did not say, and I forgot to mention this, so I'm sorry I interjected, but another thing about Julianna Pena too is if Kayla Harrison starts to tire at all and she concedes the back foot, Julianna Pena will stick her with the jab, will push her back to the cage, and she will get on the front foot. Like Julianna Pena will meet every opponent she fights in the middle of the octagon, and she is down for a 50-50 exchange, even with Amanda Nunes, who is by far the most frightening women's puncher in MMA history. Even over Cyborg, we saw what happened. So if she's willing to meet Amanda Nunes in the fire, I know she's going to be willing to meet Kayla Harrison. And I do think cutting to 135, like we're not getting at 34 years old after her whole entire Olympic judoka career and she's got she's got a lot of fights in a short amount of time in MMA too. Like, I don't think that we're getting the best Harrison at 135.
No,
this weekend. How could you? There's just no way. I think we're both on Harrison.
Yes. You've got her second round. I'm going to say first. I think
sub,
that she I'm going to say sub. I think that she's, she feels like, okay, this is, what I came here for. This is my destiny. I don't think that she's asleep at the wheel. I think that was part of the problem when she lost to Pacheco. I think that, she's got her eyes on the prize. She's motivated, kind of similar to Patchy Mix, So I think that she's got something to prove, and I think she does it.
Cool. So we're both on Harrison. You've got first round sub. I've got second round TKO via strikes. Moving on to the main event of UFC 316, we have Merab Dvalishvili taking on Sean O'Malley. Odds on this fight, and it's the second fight. This is a rematch. Odds on this fight, Merab is the pretty decent favorite coming in at -270. Sean O'Malley is a +230 dog here. And we were talking about dogged fighters and fighters that have a lot of tenacity, and I mean that kind of Merab may be the most dogged fighter in UFC history.
49 takedown attempts in one fight, dude.
Yeah, dude, that fight with Petrion, if you're listening to this, go back and watch that fight. It's an incredible performance by Merab. After the fight's over, this is something I'll never forget. After the fight's over, Merab sticks his hand out to go shake Petrion's hand, and Petrion had defended so many takedowns. Instead of returning the handshake, he like sprawls his hips a little bit out and he starts down blocking. The fight's already over. Like, that is how bad. And we're talking about Petrion, like a literally a Siberian, and like the most like silent Siberian killer dude that's from like St. Petersburg, like the worst town. Literally, I think he's like from like the saddest town on the planet. You can Google that. I'm pretty sure it's like the saddest town on the planet. Like, I saw some article about that. And he's taking on Sean O'Malley, who is kind of, you would think if I told you that Sean O'Malley has earned himself a rematch against Merab Dvalishvili, and I didn't, and you had to guess which one of them beat Umar Nurmagomedov, you'd be like, oh, well, that's definitely how Sean O'Malley earned his rematch. No, Merab Dvalishvili earned his rematch against Sean O'Malley by beating Umar Nurmagomedov. There are not many more people on the roster at this point that have like a better like win streak and record than Merab. Like,
dude, not just on the roster, but in UFC history.
Like, fucking, dude, like, Merab is really an impressive athlete. Just what he's been doing and what he's done in the UFC is so impressive. And Sean O'Malley as well. Honestly, like, there's a lot of talk when he was beating up the Chris Moutinos of the world, where he's like showboating, doing the basketball dribbling, and just kind of like piecing up Chris Moutino. Where people would say like Sean O'Malley, he's an industry plant, blah blah blah. But like, no, dude, his fight with himself with Petrion, like he went to war with Petrion. Whether you thought he won or didn't, my boss watches a lot of MMA, and we were actually texting each other during that fight, and we were both like, Sean O'Malley's a dog. We were wrong. He can go out on his shield if need be. Like he will fight. Merab, again, just like one of the most dogged dudes. He's got not great boxing. He's a guy that he's a high-paced fighter, but one thing that I think gets kind of slept on is his ability to control distance in a fight and control the way a fight is fought, where he will circle the outside, and then a lot of the exchanges against Merab all happen, on his terms. And he's just really, really good at chaining his grappling together, being incredibly dogged. Against Petrion, he nailed him with a ton of really good leg kicks. And I actually think that was something that was underused against Sean O'Malley in their first fight. So I could totally see him incorporating more leg kicks in this fight, because why not? Like, Sean O'Malley's not going to take him down. And even if he does, like, Sean O'Malley did take down Petrion, but I mean, good luck holding Merab down. I don't think there's a bantamweight on this roster, including Patchy Mix, that's going to be able to hold this dude down and control him for extended periods of time. And even though Merab's thing can't last forever, like, he's 34 at bantamweight, at some point, something's got to come to an end. He's fighting an incredibly sharp counterpuncher that's long and rangy, and is potentially the most dangerous striker in this division. And in their last fight, the cardio guy got hurt to the body, clearly got hurt to the body by Sean O'Malley from a teep. And I think Sean O'Malley in this fight, if he wants to win this fight, I think he has to go out there and just kind of crush Merab. I think he needs to go hurt him very early. And I think he's going to probably try to do that, because if he's got a mindset of, I'm going to defend takedowns and, stay on the back foot and land my shots, like, I don't think that's ever going to work against Merab. He is just he's got way too much stick-to-itiveness. He was way too good at chaining the wrestling together. He himself has pretty good power, and he will continue to, crash the pocket. And he looked, not only did he beat O'Malley, like that, like front headlock he had on O'Malley, like the kissing the back of his head, like, I definitely don't think O'Malley's going to also have the same mindset going into this fight as he did their first one.
Okay, so you were talking about no, you're fine, man. You were talking about Merab having one of the more impressive win streaks currently on the roster. Dude, it's not just currently on the roster; it's all time. Some of the people within that win streak.
Read them, please.
We'll start back at the furthest back name that's notable. John Dodson, two-time flyweight championship challenger. Marlon Moraes challenged for the bantamweight title. Jose Aldo, enough said. Petr Yan, bantamweight champion. Henry Cejudo, bantamweight and flyweight champion. Sean O'Malley, bantamweight champion, because that's who he took the belt from. Umar Nurmagomedov, the hottest prospect that we had seen in who knows how long, and he was favored to beat Merab. Merab beat him. Dude, no, Merab's run is one of the all-time great runs. It's not just one of the best ones currently. It is an all-time great run. Merab has a legit claim to being the greatest bantamweight of all time.
I wouldn't argue it. I don't know what they're like. If I was going to argue it, I wouldn't have the most rock solid argument. Like, people are going to say, you're crazy, Dominic Cruz. And then I'm going to do this. John Dodson, Cody Stamann, Marlon Moraes, Jose Aldo, Petr Yan, Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley, Umar Nurmagomedov. That's going to be my response. Dude, and at the point where Umar Nurmagomedov fought Merab Dvalishvili, Umar would have been a favorite to beat any bantamweight on the planet at that time.
Yes.
And yes. I guarantee someone smarter than me, go find all these odds. I guarantee Umar is still probably a favorite to beat every bantamweight on the planet besides Merab Dvalishvili. And if it got remade, it'd probably be like a pick'em.
Dude, he would definitely be favored against O'Malley.
He'd be favored against almost every. He'd be favored. I mean, yeah. Look what he did. Yeah. So very, very good. And Sean O'Malley, dude, like, I would have laughed at you if you told me he was one in the top 5 bantamweights a few years ago. But like, no, dude, he clearly deserves to be here himself. Like, Sean O'Malley, he looked okay against. I mean, he definitely had Merab in more peril than anyone, since he kind of got like tech subbed, I guess, many moons ago. But he's definitely made like huge strides from remember his Pedro Munoz fight where like,
yes,
he was like getting just leg kicked from the outside, or like his long delay of fighting when he tested hot for PEDs. People forget about that shit that Sean O'Malley has had, drug test failures. But he beat Petr Yan fair and square, even though most people, myself include probably believe that Petr Yan won that fight. But when I say he beat him fair and square, like if you watch that fight, like anyone could have won that fight. It would have been fair and square. Like they both fucking kicked the shit out of each other. The Aljamain Sterling performance is probably going to always be his best performance, even over the Marlon Vera fight. But like he got his win back over Marlon Vera after he had that leg issue. And he looked okay against Merab. I just don't know. This is what I learned in between their last 2 fights. I learned nothing about Sean O'Malley because he hasn't fought anyone else to earn himself another title shot. And I learned that Merab Dvalishvili is good enough to out-grapple Umar Nurmagomedov, and his striking is good enough to at least make things even to where he can rely on his other accolades and his physical abilities to defeat literally Umar Nurmagomedov, who is probably one of the best 3 bantamweights in the world still to this day. Yep. I'm going to pick Merab here again. I think Sean O'Malley, to win this fight, needs to come out and punish Merab and really try to make him pay, because I don't think that 5th round like teep to the body happens again. It wasn't lucky. Sean O'Malley is a very deliberate, accurate, powerful striker, great counter puncher. He's got an incredible slip counter, incredible 1-2. He's got really, really good angles. He's got some of the best footwork for like this dude. Like, he has no formal boxing training. He's from Helena, Montana. Like, he's got very good footwork. He's got very precise striking, but dude, Merab's just different. Like, he's like a generational talent in this division. His cardio is unmatched. His durability, his doggedness. I don't know. I don't think anyone's beaten Merab until I see Merab's 34. Father Time is going to be who beats Merab, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah. No. The problem with this, though, the UFC, whether they know it or not, they really screwed over O'Malley. You know, because you've already said it. What's the hook? What's the promotion for this? You know, so you said that you didn't watch the fights this past weekend. You know, totally respectable. I understand where you're coming from. They did a small promo with O'Malley, and it was basically the way that they're trying to sell this fight, which is pretty sad if you ask me. It was, yeah, you know, I've gotten off of social media. You know, I'm not smoking weed. I'm not dyeing my hair rainbow colors. What, you're maturing? No, I you know, and it's basically like, you know, you're saying that you're willing to do all this stuff to get your belt back. Okay, how about you do what the fans really want you to do? Go in there and win a fight and prove that you deserve this title shot again. I don't give a rat's ass if you're giving up social media. I don't give a rat's ass if you go in there with your natural hair color or if it's all the colors of the rainbow like you've done before. Prove to me you want the belt by going out and whooping somebody else's ass. Until then, it's just like, I don't think you want it that bad. I think you feel entitled. So the promotion for this fight sucks because it's like, yeah, Umar's a fighting champion, and this guy that he already beat, you know, while Umar was whooping the ass of, or not Umar, while Merab was whooping the ass of Umar, Sean's been sitting around giving up weed. You know, whether you smoke weed or not, I don't care. The point is that's not going to motivate me to want to watch O'Malley fight Merab. The UFC really kind of put O'Malley into a bad position because nobody wants to see this fight. Nobody cares to see this fight because we feel like we've already seen it. So don't get me wrong. This isn't me saying that this couldn't be intriguing, but they needed O'Malley to go out and win a fight, and he hasn't. So this really feels like a flat promotion. Like, nobody's talking about this fight going into the weekend. You know, Harrison and Pena are getting more attention than this fight.
And I should be like way more hyped about this. Like I should be super hyped about it. I mean, Merab is literally like one of my favorite fighters actively on the roster because like, not, again, I think I was talking to you about, we were talking about this a little bit like off camera, but not only are Merab's fights like interesting and just fun, but like the human that he is outside of the cage, like climbing trees, jumping into frozen lakes, climbing fucking like sketchy scaffolding 30 stories up, climbing up bleachers to fight fans that disrespect him. Like, that shit's hilarious.
No, but I agree.
And that's the reason why I care about it. But like, I'm not the average dude. Like, I am a guy that's all in on MMA. Like, listen to what we're doing right now. It's Monday. We both worked all day after the weekend and we're here recording a podcast. So we love this shit, but it's definitely a tough sell for, you know, the average person. And as for Sean O'Malley, like you said, he gave up smoking weed to earn himself a title shot. Cool. What should have taken place was about 2 months before the Sandhagen and Davison Figueiredo fight, it should have just happened like 2 months earlier, and it should have been Sandhagen versus O'Malley, and then the winner of that should be fighting this weekend. Like, that's what should, like, that O'Malley and Sandhagen should have fought like in February or March. And then this fight could be, and then the winner of that fight could be like fighting this weekend. So yeah, I don't know. And then, I mean, dude, Petrion is fighting Marcus McGee. So I don't know what. We've got like one of the most fun divisions in the UFC, and they're just like, the matchmaking just seems wonky. But I think after this weekend with Patchy Mix's, he's thrown his, name in the hat. I think things are going to finally start to even out, hopefully.
Well, okay. Along those lines, though, the UFC kind of screwed itself over because they really did not want Merab to be the champion. So they had him fight a murderer's row before he became the champion. And once he became the champion, it's like, well, he's pretty much already beat everybody on his way to the title. So they screwed themselves in that sense by trying to avoid making him champion.
And the way he's beat a lot of these dudes, like he embarrassed them.
Yeah.
Like look at the way he beat Henry Cejudo. Like he picked him up and carried him like a baby across the octagon. He was kissing Sean O'Malley's back.
Yeah. And then, we already talked about how he just psychologically broke Petr Yan, the UFC really did themselves a disservice by delaying everything for Merab. At this point, about the only elite fighter that he hasn't beat is Corey Sandhagen, and he sounds like a nightmare matchup for Sandhagen. Like I like Sandhagen, but he's a nightmare matchup for him. So I think I've made it obvious. I'm picking Merab to win this because I haven't seen anything out of O'Malley to make me think otherwise, because none of us have seen anything out of O'Malley since he last fought. But you're 100% right. It doesn't mean that O'Malley can't catch him, because O'Malley probably does have the fastest hands in the division, and he's got precision. He's got power. He could put Merab out, but Merab is not an easy guy to put out. Nobody's been able to knock him out yet. At least not in the UFC. I think he might have been knocked out on the regional scene, but that was who knows how many years ago when he was still figuring things out. But
and he got like text.
Yeah, I just looked. He's actually never been knocked out, and that technical stub was controversial. But regardless, Merab's a stud. I'm not going to discount the fact that O'Malley couldn't just one shot put him out. But aside from that, I think that he's going to have to figure out a way to win rounds. And again, I think as crazy as it sounds, I think Merab has more to prove here than O'Malley. Even though he's a champion, even though he's beat him, because the UFC continues to more or less disrespect him by saying, you know what, you're going to go fight Umar, you're going to prove that you're the champion, and we're going to let O'Malley sit on the sideline. And I think that's disrespect to Merab, and I think he's probably going to be more motivated this time around. He's going to be like, okay, you want to put me back in there? I'm really going to embarrass him this time.
Merab is also one of those dudes that will channel any sort of like any sort of animosity he has towards his opponent into just like doing his thing. Like he's gonna, if he's mad at O'Malley, he's just gonna pick him up and chuck him on his head even harder. I don't think it's gonna cause him to make an angry mistake. And Merab is not a flawless fighter, and he is definitely touchable. But this is not like Kelvin Gastelum and Joe Pyfer, where like I would pick. Kelvin Gastelum's never been knocked out, and I would not be surprised if Joe Pyfer knocks out Kelvin Gastelum. But this isn't the same. Like Merab is different, dude. He's literally a machine. So we're both on Merab, and I think he's going to do it again by decision, and I think it's just going to be more dominant. I just don't think that the moment in the 5th round happens. I think it's going to look really similar without the moment in the 5th round, and I think Merab, if he just incorporates more leg kicks, like if he makes this look like the Petr Yan fight with the amount of leg kicks he threw, this could be even more one-sided than the first one.
Yep.
Cool. That's the show, guys. We chatted about quite a bit of stuff. I I will probably do something because there's actually a really good card coming up next week as well. So we're going to recap this one. Dayne, thank you so much for coming. Sorry. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can listen to all the stuff you do.
I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the Dayne Fox. You can find my my articles on Sherdog. Got one up this weekend discussing the perils of weight cutting with Maycee Barber, and I should have another one coming out this Thursday as well.
The perils of weight cutting. That was a major topic of the show today. Weight cuts. That's the show, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the fights.